Since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has undergone some changes. NATO has reached out to Eastern Europe with its Partnership for Peace program and is shifting its focus to regional conflicts such as that in Bosnia. General George Joulwan is NATO's military commander and commander-in-chief of U.S. forces in Europe, but this morning he's in our Washington bureau. Good morning, General. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Katie. It's good to be here.
Let's talk first of all about Russia. There has been some concern this week over the health of Russian President Boris Yeltsin, and there are now questions that he may in fact be losing control of the government as a result of some of these problems. How concerned is NATO?
Well, I think there's always concern when it involves Russia, but as to the exact extent of President Yeltsin's health, we really don't have any specific information on that, but we're watching it very closely.
Of course, you know Russia wants to be a part of NATO's so-called Partnership for Peace program by the end of the month. With growing concerns over Boris Yeltsin's health and about the government in general, how worried are you that Russia may in fact revert back to its state prior to the dismantling of the Soviet Union? And do you have any kind of contingency to deal with that possibility?
Well, I think it's premature to talk about reverting back to old ways. I'd much rather be more optimistic than that. I think we have a great opportunity with Russia right now. They have shown interest in the Partnership for Peace program. We should reach out to them at this point and engage with them. I know NATO is very much interested in doing so, and I hope we can bring that to some fruition, and would be very, very important if they would sign the Partnership for Peace proposal.
General, not to sound like a pessimist, though, are there any kind of plans in place, or is there any kind of thinking at all within NATO about the possibility of embracing Russia in this new partnership and then having Russia turn around and behave very differently than it is now?
Again, I think NATO has been and continues to be a collective defense security arrangement. We're always has as our basic fundamental premise Article 5, which is collective defense. We can do that. But at this stage, at this time, I think it's very important that we reach out to Russia. We include it in what we're doing. And I think if they want to participate in the Partnership for Peace, I think we should welcome that.
General, let's turn to Bosnia now. If an acceptable peace agreement is reached between the warring factions there, obviously a peacekeeping force will be needed to maintain the peace in that country of some estimated, 50,000 troops. How many of those troops do you envision coming from the United States? Well,
I'd rather not get into the exact number, Katie, at this particular time. I think it's very important to see the peace settlement, what it includes, do our troop-to-task assessment, and then arrive at a number. The United States has said that it would provide up to about half. I've seen numbers of about 25,000, but I'd rather not speculate on that because I think it's very important to see the terms of the settlement first.
It took some time, General, to make progress in Bosnia. What, if anything, has NATO learned about that conflict? And there was obviously considerable success in giving the Bosnian Serbs an ultimatum in Sarajevo.
Well, first of all, I think the events on 9 February, when the member nations, 16 member nations, met for 12 hours in Brussels to come up with the ultimatum, I think was very significant. It showed collective will, it showed political will, and I think they learned when that collective NATO will is expressed, it can have results. And we saw that in the exclusion zone around Sarajevo.
What is the next step, and why couldn't a so-called exclusion zone be used in other parts of Bosnia?
I think you have to be very careful there to use the same model elsewhere. You have to understand that the United Nations controls the forces on the ground, not NATO. So we have to work very closely. If there's not unity of command, hopefully there's unity of effort and purpose in working with the United Nations on the ground. They're the ones that need to request our assistance and help, and they're the ones that need to understand how many forces they have and where they can best use them. And the United Nations is doing that now.
Okay, we're about out of time, but I don't want to let you get away without asking you about North Korea. I know it's not officially your bailiwick, but you have been in Washington for meetings. How concerned are you over some of the rhetoric that we're hearing from the North Koreans?
Well, I think we're always concerned about rhetoric from a country that potentially has nuclear weapons and particularly has the sort of political structure that it has in North Korea. But I think our National Command Authority has made it clear. You're right, it's not in my area of responsibility. But they have a great commander over there in Chuck Larson and in Korea, Gary Luck. And I'm sure they're giving the President, the National Command Authority, great advice.
All right. General George Joulwan, thanks so much for joining us. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much, Katie.
We're back in a moment with more on Today, right after these messages.